Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable Senators. Today marks an important milestone to the development of our system of devolved government. The Senate, through the committee, is called upon to play one of its most critical constitutional mandates, that of determining whether an elected governor should vacate office pursuant to an impeachment by a county assembly. Let me state at the outset that I believe in the right of the members of county assemblies to carry out oversight over the executive. I believe it is their legitimate right and constitutional duty to impeach a governor if and when the circumstances exist to justify such an impeachment. Such oversight processes are essential in ensuring transparency, accountability by those of us who have been privileged to hold critical leadership roles. However, it must be recognized that the removal of an elected official is a solemn responsibility, as it overturns the democratic choice of the voters. In the case of Kirinyaga County, it seeks to substitute the will of over 159,000 citizens who voted for me on 8th August 2017. Consequently, such a process must only be carried out in extreme circumstance. Honorable Senators, you are no doubt allowed to the reality that an impeachment motion is a vastly time-consuming exercise which takes away valuable time of all parties involved, including the MCAs, the subject governors, this House, from other critical businesses. That is not all. It also infects the political environment of a county so severely that very little proceeds in the county when this process is going on. Currently in Kirinyaga, budgets are not approved. My officers are summoned daily and issued threats that they will be removed from office or otherwise sanctioned. As a matter of fact, in the last 1 month, 2 CECs and 1 CEO and the county secretary have been given a vote of no confidence by the county assembly. Critical state officers, including CECs and members of the County Public Service Board, have not been approved by the assembly, making it difficult to employ staff even for critical health services. Services to the people of Kirinyaga are affected and will continue to be affected, even when this process is over. Whatever its result, the negative impact of the process will linger. It is also an expensive process for all concerned, with lawyers and other professionals, tons of documents, witnesses, and other attendant costs. It is therefore not surprising that the Constitution and the County Government Act reserves the impeachment solely to circumstances in which gross and serious violation of the Constitution and the law and serious abuses of office are proved to have been committed by the governor. The courts have severally and consistently given decisions affirming the need for those seeking impeachment to obtain a high threshold for misconduct and violations of law before they can successfully remove an elected officer from their position. Impeachment and removal from office was never intended and should never be based on falsities, innuendos, rumors, hearsay, conjecture, and certainly not malice. Honorable Senators, secondly, an impeachment process is required by the law to be procedurally without reproach. It must respect the rules of natural justice, including the right to a fair hearing, and involve the people through public participation processes. That, as my lawyers will show, never occurred in this process. No form of public participation took place. The decision to proceed with impeachment, despite a subsisting court order, was made on Monday. I was purportedly sent an invitation to attend the proceeding on the same Monday to appear the next day. Truth be told, the notice to appear was brought to my office at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, when the motion was being debated. I was not even in the county on the day. By 3 p.m. on the same day, the impeachment proceedings had been completed. It is to avoid this sort of possible malpractice by county assemblies and to protect the integrity of the removal process that the drafters of the Constitution and the County Government Act wisely placed the Senate at the center of the impeachment process of governors. In this process, the Senate is the preeminent organ that ensures that the impeachment process is fact-based, has the requisite threshold, and is procedurally fair. The Senate is also to ensure that an impeachment process is not used to achieve collateral political purposes or push personal agendas. And it is not calculated to scandalize, embarrass, malign, or defame an individual. Unfortunately, what is before you is in every respect false, unfounded, and salacious allegations which have no place in an impeachment motion. Honorable Senators, my lawyers will be taking you through the allegations that formed the basis of my impeachment. Without rehearsing that presentation, I must say that the grounds that form the basis of my impeachment and which this committee is now asked to superintend are an affront to the very serious process that the Constitution and the law have prescribed for the removal of a governor from office. The grounds contain allegations that are obvious falsities, unfounded, and malicious. They relate to minor administrative issues that would easily have been clarified by a routine inquiry. How can anyone justify summoning an entire county assembly and now the Senate, where the allegation asserting gross violation of the Constitution is failing to deliver a state of the county speech at the county assembly, a requirement that does not even exist in the Constitution, not to mention that I actually did deliver 2 states of addresses in both the years that I have been in office, with one scheduled towards September this year. That will be proven. How does the Senate of the Republic of Kenya be called to sit in inquiries into allowances to board members whose approval was made way back in 2014 by the SRC for all boards in the country? How can this honorable House be called upon to sit in review of tenders which were never appealed by the participating bidders, where there was no allegation of malpractice or non-performance or overpricing, and no single allegation that the governor was conferred any personal benefit or that loss was occasioned in the county? I would like to mention on one specific tender, the 50 million tender. This team will be shocked to know there was no 50 million tender given to Velocity, and that will be proven. There was also no 30 million shilling payment to Velocity, another lie done again for intended purposes of ruining somebody's reputation. That again will be proven by my lawyers. You will be shocked to find the allegations even include the purchase of the governor's vehicle, whose budget was duly approved by the same assembly. The purchase was not from a dealer, but from the manufacturers of the vehicle, Toyota Kenya, that supplies government vehicles under a framework contract negotiated by the Ministry of Public Works. Why would the business of Kirinyaga County be stopped at the Senate, as the Senate is called upon to interrogate travel impress? To show the extent of these falsities and the malice, the Assembly knowingly added 3 non-existent entries to the impress lists amounting to 4.6 million. These monies were never paid to the governor. They have no evidence to show that that money was paid. They were false entries to make and malign the name of the governor. Why else would an assembly do that? In their enthusiasm to prosecute the governor, they even allege I did not travel on trips where the leader of majority, the chief accuser in this process, was present and is photographed with me in the US and in Italy during those 2 trips. There can be no higher abuse of the process of impeachment, and indeed, no higher abuse of the power of the assembly than the process before you today. Honorable Senators, the Senate exists to protect devolution. While this must include strengthening the oversight capacity of county assemblies, focus must shift to protecting governors and county executives from the excessive overstepping of the oversight power of the county assemblies. Most governors avoid impeachment and firing of their cabinets only by bending over backwards to cater to the personal demands and whims of MCAs. Budgets are only passed if allocations are aligned to the personal desires of certain individuals. MCAs go as far as to demand to approve payments to contractors before they are made, contrary to the County Government Act. Failure to keep the MCA's wheels sufficiently oiled can earn you an impeachment. Unfortunately, all these prejudices, service delivery, and development in counties for which the governor is then held responsible. That is our unspoken reality. Unless the Senate deals with this problem with the seriousness that it deserves, not only will anyone worth their name avoid seeking county leadership, devolution will not meet the intentions for which it was established. Honorable Senators, I wish to make one final point on the need to retain the integrity of the county assemblies. In the last 7 years, the Senate has invested significant resources in ensuring that the profile of county assemblies is raised so that they can represent the image of effective government at the grassroots for Kenyans. This is extremely important because the county assembly is the closest representation of Wanjiko in the lowest level of governing. It has been the desire of the Senate and those who believe in strong devolved governments to erase the history of councillors in the old local governments who engaged in fisticuffs and other such unfortunate methods of handling council business and resolving disputes. It was therefore an embarrassment for us to watch my county assembly members sleeping in the assembly for a night prior to the impeachment proceeding and roughing up fellow members just for raising a point of order. This sort of conduct brings county assemblies and indeed the entire devolution system to disrepute and must be discouraged. While we have differences of opinion with MCAs, Kirinyaga has never been the subject of any actions that would require people to sleep in the county assembly and convert sittings to violent confrontations. Finally, honorable senators, I ask that you look into these matters dispassionately with an eye solely on evidence. I do not ask that you take my position as truth. I only ask that you ignore media tidbits and sensationalizations of tales. Listen only to the evidence that will be presented in support of the accusations and review the documents we have presented in support of our rebuttal and establish the truth. You will agree that this was an unfortunate process that must never be repeated. I ask, however, that if you find the allegations are malicious, unfounded, and were calculated for the mischievous purpose of harassing the governor of Kirinyaga, that you will declare these processes to amount to abuse of office by the MCAs. You would then be within your rights to apply appropriate sanctions, which your establishing law and your standing orders allow you to do. I say this because the Kirinyaga MCAs have made several statements that this is just one of many impeachments they have lined up to ensure they destabilize the county totally. While you cannot stop legitimate impeachment motions to be prosecuted, you must give sufficient guidelines that ensure that impeachments are not misused. It must not be made a tool for pursuing vendetta, and the Senate must not be made an accomplice to such endeavors. Once again, I thank you for this opportunity to address you. I believe that truth will prevail, and as is stated in our national anthem, may justice be our shield and defender. I thank you, honorable senators.
Thank you. Just before the council comes in, on a light note, Honorable